Welcome, listeners, new and returning listeners, to today's episode of the Black Business Roundtable. I am your host, Doug Blacksher, broadcasting to you live from the city of diversity, that is Oakland, California. I am excited to be here today to talk about some great things that would definitely include what's going on here in Oakland, California. We are excited to have visiting with us every other Thursday from 4:30 to 5 p.m. Allyssa Victory ESQ, aka Victory's Corner. Today, her focus touches on several issues, including protecting Black women, something near and dear to my heart, and defending our democracy. We also have a story that is not getting any media, but it's going to get some media shine definitely on the Black Business Roundtable. I want to bring to your attention out of El Paso County, Colorado, which is when you hear the story of a Black rancher that is experiencing threats, including lynching. This is 2021, folks. Lynching. You will all want to reach out and help this farmer trying to facilitate making a living off the land his family purchased. Disgraceful, Colorado. This story has infuriated me, and I literally mean infuriated me, many ways. And today we need to level-headed and grounding of our mental health expert. I saved that introduction, of course, for my co-host, Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology, with acknowledging our mental health heading into the later part of January 2023. A deepest thank you for my brother, our mastermind behind this podcast dynasty, Mr. Donnie Glover. I always throw a doctor behind because he's doing an outstanding job putting this whole program together. The Black Business Roundtable appreciates being a part of your growing network, Donnie Glover, and dedicated to bringing the real, unfiltered news before. Black Business Roundtable is proud to be a part of #BlackUSA.news, #Donnie Glover. Today, January 19th, 2023, as noted via the National Day calendar, today is Get to Know Your Customer Day. And once again, today is Get to Know Your Customers Day. Remind businesses, reach out to patrons and get to know them better. #Get to Know Your Customers Day. Thank you, National Day calendar, for that. Some current events in the way of news today. Last night was the last series of storms, giving California a bit of reprieve for several days. And the way it's situated, the next 9 to 10 days, we're supposed to have dry days, as we need a little time to dry out and clean up as best we can. Did you realize there are 2 states in the United States that recognize Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert E. Lee, a Confederate general, on the same damn day? Yes, folks, this was recently brought to light by the bank, and once again, by a bank flyer posted in the window regarding being closed in observance. I can't do all your homework, audience, for you, but do an internet search. And if you have money in that bank, take it out. I believe we're back on live, audience. A little internet problems there. But continuing where I left off, Monday, January 16th, was observance of the Martin Luther King Jr. Day and a day of service. So how did you celebrate the day? Hashtag Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., hashtag Martin Luther King Jr. January 26, 2020 was the loss of Kobe Bryant due to a fatal helicopter accident, which is a total of 8 passengers and 1 crew member died. Hashtag Kobe Bryant, hashtag Kobe Bryant Remembrance. Have you visited local hotspot Knfolx for yet a bit of conversation? Coffee, wine, culture, a spot to uplift one another and bring a sense of community. Wow, I can't wait to get back there. Open daily, Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Their address is 1951 Telegraph Avenue, Oakland. Instagram at Knfolx Coffee, hashtag Knfolx Coffee. This week's Black Business Roundtable thumbs up goes to dun, 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 the Warriors for their trip to the White House to visit with President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and our newly elected mayor, Mayor Shane Tao, was also there and photographed with both of our leaders. I'm so proud of Mayor Shane. She's been in Washington, D.C., all over the country, getting prepared to bring this city out of its dire needs of leadership. This week's Black Business Roundtable thumbs down goes to dun, 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 those people here in Oakland and Alameda County who are making it difficult for our Black women elected politicians. And I will be naming names in the near future because we're not going to have it here in Oakland. We're not going to have it here in Alameda County. We're not going to have it here in the state of California. And we're not going to have it here. We're not going to have it here in the United States of America. This is the 21st century, and we need to get our act together, all of us. Today's show highlights, and let me say this before I go to my next thing. don't receive the thumbs down in hashtag the town. Do better. You are welcome to come and talk with us about it and make it right. Hashtag BBRT Naughty Less and hashtag BBRT Naughty Less 2023. Today's show highlights. Today, I look forward to our segment today with Allyssa Victory, Esquire, in Allyssa Victory's Corner. Victory Corner, I love that. She is covering quite a bit, especially the negative media coverage reporting on locally elected official women of color, harassment and threats they are receiving, current voter suppression of a Dem election, and a current Senate run. Boy, politics can be politics if you don't keep on top of it. And she's going to educate our audience today. The last portion of our show will be regarding the Black-owned ranch of Mr. and Mrs. Courtney Mallery, the sister, the veteran, Freedom Acres Ranch in El Paso County, Colorado. We first spotted comments, and after following those on Instagram, got to the heart of the matter via the GoFundMe account, started with the lead in deputy leading assault. Deputy, wait a minute. Deputy leading assault in Steal Black Farmland, Instagram at Black Farmland Owners Matter. Link to GoFundMe is included in the show online description as a two-part series on this family and their fight to farm. Hashtag fight to farm. So let's get started this third Thursday of the 2023 year with my co-host joining me shortly, Dr. Ashley Coleman, as we give you the scoop from Oakland right here on the Black Business Roundtable, January 19th, 2023, third show of this new year. My co-host and show guests today include Therapeutic Thursday Check-In with Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology, tenured and immediate past department chair, Assistant Professor of Psychology at University of the West. Welcome back, Dr. Ashley. Allyssa Victory Esquire, a civil rights leader, educator, a licensed attorney serving across the Bay Area and the state of California. On Instagram at Victory4, and that's F-O-R, Victory4 Oakland. And now, for the national political highlights, Kevin McCarthy, a new Speaker of the House. I wonder what kind of deals he had to get to pull that one off. The new Speaker of the House, and the news this week that committee assignments have been given to election deniers and also fabricators. So we're just giving nilly-willy, Kevin McCarthy, election deniers and fabricators of the truth. Wow, this country is going in the wrong direction. How low will the Republicans go? Pretty soon they'll be playing kickball with the curve. Apparently, we have a long downward spiral ahead of us all. And now, for the news of the day, is Dr. Ashley back there to take us away? Uh-oh, better check it out. Audience, we have a show today for you that is designed to really take a look at what is going on politically for our sisters who are being harassed, having to have their own security, etc. We are, I am truly just at the racism, the threats that have been hurled, that have been hurled at many of our women politicians. It's very critical that we all understand that. Oh, I'm back on. All right. All right, Dr. Ashley, you see I had a little bit of IT problem, but can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Doug.
Hello. I'm going to turn it over to you, audience. And now for the news of the day, Dr. Ashley, please take us away. Thank you.
Absolutely. And greetings to our audience. On this day, January 19th, 1930, white mobs attack Filipino farm workers in Watsonville, California. And again, we always want to acknowledge the Equal Justice Initiative, who publishes a daily calendar of historical events. And you can access the calendar by visiting calendar.eji.org. And on the webpage, there actually is a picture of a sign that was posted that says, "Get rid of all Filipinos or we'll burn this town down." So beginning on January 19th, 1930, mobs of upwards of 500 white people roamed Watsonville, California, and the surrounding towns and farms, attacking Filipino farm workers and their property after Filipino men were seen dancing with white women at a newly opened local dance hall. And in the days and weeks before the rioting, politicians and community leaders have ramped up their anti-Filipino rhetoric, calling the farm workers a menace and demanding that Filipino residents be deported so, quote, white people who have inherited this country for themselves and their offspring could live. And a local judge stated, quote, "The worst part of the Filipino man being here is his mixing with young white girls from ages 13 to 17. He gives them silk underwear and makes them pregnant and crowds whites out of jobs in the bargain." Wow. And so initially one mob was turned away from the dance hall by security guards. However, they returned in full force and beat dozens of Filipino workers, farm workers, and the beatings continued elsewhere in the area into the night of January 22nd. And unfortunately, that resulted in the death of Mr. Tobera. No one was ever charged with his murder, and 7 men were also later convicted of rioting, but received either probation or 30 days in jail. And this anti-Filipino violence and rhetoric continued in the state in the months after the Watsonville riots. And so this violence continued in towns like Stockton, Salinas, San Francisco, and San Jose. And in 1933, California enacted a law to prohibit marriages between Filipino and white residents. And again, in 1934, answering in part a longstanding request of California's government, Congress reduced Filipino immigration to the U.S. to just 50 people per year. In September of 2011, the California legislature officially expressed regret and apologized for these events and actions. So acknowledgement with apology and changed behavior goes a long way. Doug?
Dr. Ashley, that's an incredible story. And each week, audience, Dr. Ashley articulates and educates our audience and our listeners that we have a shameful, rich history of discrimination, and we think it's our duty to bring it to the forefront so that people understand what happened in the past. If we don't stay on top of things, it will happen in the future. Dr. Ashley, thank you for sharing that story with us. Also, audience, at the end of this segment, we have a story on the Black rancher who's being terrorized down there in Colorado. And it's embarrassing. We talk about basic rights, civil rights. How about human rights? Dr. Ashley, please. Can you give us then woosah,
Mhm.
woosah. Okay, let's check in with our very own Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology. Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
Thank you, Doug, again. And so, welcome to Therapeutic Thursdays. I know that we are again a little more than halfway through the month of January. And so, we have our goals. We talked last week about SMART goals, we have our intentions for the month. And I thought it would be a great time for us also to check out and review the signs of stress and burnout. Often, when we're setting goals and we're being ambitious and we're looking to the finish line, we want this momentum. We can kind of overcommit and not really keep up the self-care necessary for us to be as successful. So I want to just talk a little bit about burnout, stress, some signs, and some responses of what to do. So stress is defined by Lazarus and Volkman, who were researchers at UC Berkeley, as stress is defined as the recognition that what's being asked of us is either going to tax us or overwhelm our internal or external resources. So it's a recognition that we're going to be stretched in at least one or more capacity. And so signs of stress can be here, over engagement, which is one of the first things, is kind of the over committing sign of stress. Recognizing like emotions are running higher than usual, or maybe a shorter response, feeling a little short or a little snappy. Stress can often lead to a loss of energy. And usually we have physical signs of stress. So that could be headache, body tension. You know, we've done for the listeners who have been loyal to us since the beginning of the show. You remember the body scans, and I'll be returning to that. So recognizing tension in the forehead or headaches, grinding of teeth or clenching of jaw, having the shoulders up to the ears, relaxing those shoulders, dropping them, getting up to stretch. Sometimes people feel the tension in their fists, their body kind of gearing up for a fight. This also can be stomach issues. And so these are some of the physical signs of stress. There can be cognitive as well, forgetfulness, spaciness, kind of shorter attention span, apathy. There can be emotional signs, anxiety, numbness, depleted, feeling sad, or okay, so these are some of them. Then I also want to just say relationally, and then I'll go to burnout. Relationally, withdrawn. Maybe you enjoy talking to your partner, but you're coming home from work and you're just like, wait a minute, they want to talk to me. Or with children. Children are very excited about their days. They want to let their parents know up to a certain age, right? What they did, what they learned, what they made. And so recognizing if you feel yourself pulling away, it's normal that maybe you're just overextending. So you need some rest, but you can ask for that and do that in a way that's not rejecting to others. And another sign of stress is kind of like a withdrawal or a loneliness and isolation. Whereas burnout is more associated, it's like chronic stress, which can lead to a sense of hopelessness and almost like an abandonment of work, an abandonment of social responsibilities, just more of a chronic response and a more checking out. And so these can be work related, feeling like you have little or no control over work, less motivation. When we don't get the proper recognition, we don't do things often for the applause, but over time, it's nice to feel appreciated and to know and get feedback from your employers or your colleagues that what you do matters, or from your family. So a lack of recognition or rewards, feeling unclear or feeling overwhelmed at work, too many demands. We know with the layoffs, a lot of teams are looking differently. And so people are being asked to often do multiple jobs for the same compensation. And then doing work that's monotonous. So also lifestyle, working too much can cause burnout. The cost of living we know has increased exponentially, as I'm sure many of you have looked at the price of eggs and have gasped. I'm sure it's not just me. And so there are also signs of burnout with overworking to make ends meet, and then not having the proper time to do the self-care that you know how to do. And so again, those are signs of stress, and then there's signs of burnout, and then there are things that you can do about that. So some things that you can do to kind of restart yourself, some physical things, exercise. If you can't get to the gym, if you don't have home equipment, if you can walk where it's safe and lit when it's not a tsunami outside, but walking, swimming, soaking in a hot bath with candles and music, stretching, here sitting in the sun or getting vitamin D either through capsule or naturally, sitting in a garden or among nature. When's the last time you've walked the lake? This is a great opportunity. Some mental strategies, saying an affirmation, reading something pleasurable. You may not be able to read a book like you used to or a chapter, but can you read 3 to 5 pages to reward yourself? Getting organized, making a list, any new hobbies. And then also for some may find that having a trusted place to talk about your feelings and emotions are so important. And so as always, this is a great time if you have insurance to check out your benefits and to seek out a mental health professional who can help you develop strategies for longevity and to sustain yourself. And so therapyforblackgirls.com, therapyforblackmen.org. If you are experiencing a psychological crisis, you can dial 988 or visit your nearest emergency room. You can also text 741-741 if you prefer communicating via text message. But as we're looking forward to goals and strategies, knowing that you are in the longest relationship that you're ever going to be in, and that's with yourself. And so your health is important so that you can enjoy all the things that you want to work on and achieve this year.
Audience, as you all know, I am a huge proponent on mental health. Mm-hmm. And this show today, Dr. Ashley, I'm glad that we have our superhero warrior of social justice, mm-hmm. Victory Corner coming up. Mm-hmm. But audience, be clear. I was one of those people who was uninformed, unintelligent, and not really understanding how important it is to be mentally mm-hmm. capable and competent, as well as to be physically capable and competent. So take your mental health seriously. See a doctor of psychology. Thank you, Dr. Ashley. And we have a couple of minutes before our special guest, who's going to be a part of the podcast for Victory Corner. Well, I saw something in the writing that said, "What's Libby's what's Libby's new job?" Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, let me say this, audience: we can't have her back here in Oakland doing any more damage. So, thank God she turned out, and I wish her luck. One of the things that everyone knows during the campaign process, I can be pretty brutal when I'm defending the city that I was born and raised in and still reside in. So let's move forward and get our special guest on the show to inform us in Victory Corner and what's going on with our sisters, not just here in Oakland and the county, because I understand they're trying to recall Pamela Price, just won the election for district attorney, made a historic win there. Carol Fipes and many others. So let's not delay this process any longer. Audience, let's bring her on. The woman who has, with $30,000, outdid some of the candidates who had up to $300,000. A grassroots fighter, Allyssa Victory. Hey, Allyssa.
Good evening. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Can you read this outstanding woman's bio so our audience can get a flavor of the information that she's going to be sending our way? Thank you.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. Friend of the show, Allyssa Victory ESQ is a civil rights leader, educator, and licensed attorney serving across the Bay Area and state of California. She holds a Bachelor of Arts with honors in ethnic studies and a minor in Black studies, as well as a JD concentrated in government law. She currently practices in policing and labor law and is an elected ADEM delegate to the CA Democratic Party for Assembly District 18. And Allyssa is currently running for another term for ADEM 18 as candidate number 12. Welcome back, Allyssa. We're so happy to have you with us.
Thank you. Good evening to you both. Thank you for having me. Thank you to everyone who is tuning in and who will watch later to Victory's Corner. I'll be here around twice a month, sharing some perspectives, some thoughts and reflections on local politics. I reside in Oakland, so we'll be focused a lot on things happening in our NorCal region.
Allyssa, let's dive right into it and turn this over to you. You have the floor for your segment, Victory's Corner. And thank you for the teaser of your discussion today. You noted protecting Black women and defending our democracy and touching on media and the negative reporting of District Attorney Pamela Price. Please share your thoughts with our audience and hold no words back, because when you come after our sisters, I take that personal, and you know this. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, first, I want to give a shout out to the African Black Coalition, the largest Black student network in the state of California, who just hosted its 20th annual conference, the first time it was out of California, hosted by University of Nevada, Las Vegas. It was a great weekend to celebrate MLK's legacy, to also serve in his honor, to serve in different capacities of providing hygiene kits, serving our unhoused, providing cooked meals and hot food. And it was a beautiful weekend. And coming off of that, I was really disappointed, disgusted to see a lot of attacks around our Black women elected officials. Those include District Attorney Pamela Price, seeing that we also have local media already starting to have negative light and characterizations of her leadership, of the changes that she is making. I want to be clear that this woman ran on reform and on change, and it's going to be uncomfortable for some people to change the status quo, to shift how we see prosecution done, how we see leadership in this office, how we see this office interacting with the public and even with defendants in the criminal justice system. And that was very intentional in her public platform. And every time she spoke in public forums and in debates, she was clear that she wanted to make, really dramatic changes, because there's so much disparity, there's so much injustice that is happening in our system right now. And so to see her actually execute those changes, it shouldn't be a surprise. That's what electeds should do, to be accountable to themselves and the platform they ran on, as well as to the public that elected them on that platform. And so to see media already characterizing those shifts and changes very negatively is, again, disappointing and disgusting. And I don't think it's going to serve public safety, which has been in the news rampantly, right? It's been in the news for so many different reasons, is the number one topic for the mayor's election that I was a part of, but also for the district attorney's election. And so having a new DA, we should all be invested in her success. And again, I want to elevate that she is clear on the changes she intended to make and is going forward with that. And that was what she was elected to do.
Real quick, you were on her transition team, as well as some powerful other players who, Ray Bobbitt, I believe he was on the transition team, and a few other. Can you share with our audience? I'm going off script now because we have some time today. We want to make sure that Oakland and Alameda County, the state of California, and nationally, we start rallying behind our sisters who were elected by the people, but being destroyed by some of our own people in our own community. So what are some of the things that you believe, that you see, that she's being faced with, challenged on, and share with our audience how how we can get involved and make sure that she knows we support her, because there's some powerful people out there, both against Mayor Shang Tao and Madam DA Pamela Price. We need to start nipping this in the bud and lay it on the table and giving names. And I don't have a problem with giving somebody a name and a label. Thank you.
Well, yes, I'm very honored to be a member of DA Price's transition team as a community representative, as also a criminal justice attorney who works in district attorney accountability throughout the state. I want to remind people that we have 58 counties in California. Each one has its own district attorney. Pamela Price has now become one of three out of 58 who are Black women. She is one of even fewer who are ran on a progressive platform of reform, of change, of justice done right, and again was elected by the people of this community to do that. Some of the hurdles she faces are certainly the public perception, the way that media is characterizing it, that these are changes that some people may have never seen, certainly not in our own county, that again may be uncomfortable, that people may be unsure. But we're clear that the current system is not working, has failed people, especially Black women, people who look like me, especially people who are immigrants, people who are formerly incarcerated when they're returning, do not have access to housing, to employment, to support services, to stop recidivism, which is the rate of people returning to jails and prison. We have a crisis of even our youth, Black and brown, being overly incarcerated, being taken out of our schools and put into these systems of incarceration. And so again, the status quo is not working. A lot of people are scared of change, but we have to have change. Because again, what we're doing right now is not sustainable. It's not fiscally responsible. It's not morally responsible. And so she's facing a lot of hurdles. I think again, the perception of people having some fear, some hesitation around what change is going to look like, what it will produce. And again, of Black women being in leadership. A Black woman has never held this position in our county. And again, is one of only 3 in our entire state. There has not ever been a Black face that people are used to seeing on this side of the courtroom, on this side of justice. And people have to still have a long way to go to trust Black women in leadership, trust Black women in politics, especially Black women that are running on progressive platforms, that are running to change the way that we are doing things and want to make really bold moves. And a lot of folks are used to incremental things, and sometimes it takes a really, really large, really bold actions to make the real impact that we need, and not just lip service and small incremental change. But I think she is facing some hurdles, but there's also a lot of support. Again, voters supported her and put her in office. All of those folks that cast a ballot should be watching, should be supporting those moves to make sure that she's implementing the platform that she ran on. All those folks who endorsed her, who funded her, should continue to be supporters, to continue to fund her, to continue to expand the network and reach of our progressive DA's mission. The organizations that have already been doing criminal justice work and policy should hold her accountable, right, to her own platform and to the needs of our community, right? Even if she's a progressive DA who has come from our community, no one is above being accountable to the people that elected them, to the folks that they serve, whether or not they voted for them or not. And so there's so many opportunities to expand partnership, transparency in this office. And I'm excited about what DA Price has already committed to in her campaign and platform, but also what is to come now that she is in office and is already taking action to do just what she said she was going to.
Dr. Ashley, please.
Yeah, no. So in addition to Pamela Price, can you update our listeners on what's going on with Councilmember Carol Fife?
Yes. I encourage you all to look at Councilmember Fife's page in her own newsletter, in her own words, what is happening. But she has released and made public different emails phone records, voicemails, and text and social media posts that were targeted at her. Some of them are extremely violent, extremely vulgar and obscene, and are making threats against her safety, against her well-being, against her as a woman and as a Black woman. Some of these messages are targeting her work to provide housing justice and criminal justice in our city. Again, I am disgusted and just disheartened by some of the recent conduct that I see connecting to even DA Price, that both Carol Fife and Pamela Price are, again, Black women who both ran on very clear platforms of wanting to bring change. Pamela Price was clear on upsetting the status quo of inequity, of over-incarceration, of over-policing in our city, in our county. And Carol Fife was also clear on having a very strong platform for housing justice, of housing for poor people and for tenants. She came from tenants' rights organizations. She also came from movements like Moms for Housing in Oakland, where Black mothers who were unhoused were taking over vacant property and ended up becoming owners of those properties and having the rights to do what they wanted, to make actual homes and community space for other women like them. Councilmember Fife is the only council member that I have seen put out a comprehensive plan to end homelessness, not to manage it, not to maintain it, but to end homelessness, end our crisis in this city, who has a full pamphlet that lays out her plan and her vision that she canvasses and make sure that the public and her constituents know what her plan and her vision is and how they can support that. So again, women who were elected on very clear platforms of change, who are doing exactly what they were elected on, are now being attacked. They're being obstructed from enacting those policies and those changes. And they're being targeted, right, as women, as Black people, and as folks that want to make this change. And so it's very sick, and I support all of our Black women leaders. I support our electeds in being protected, being safe, being able to do their jobs, not having to focus on protecting themselves to get to their meetings and to do the day-to-day work in their districts or for this city or for this county. All of that is counterproductive to all of us as residents, as people whose public dollars fund these offices and these elected officials, right? So I want them to succeed. I want them to thrive. I want them to be respected. And I want people to be held accountable for some of the negative attacks against them and for some of the lies and also, the definite harassment that we're seeing. And this is not new. This is not just happening in 2023 or even last year. This has happened, throughout history of Black women trying to break into politics and into spaces where we're severely underrepresented. That gendered and racialized attacks always seem to take hold and are used to undercut the actual work we're doing for the public at large. And so I, again, want people to really look at what is happening, and when Black women are reporting these issues, to believe them, to support them, to help have a resolution that's going to work for them, but also for the public that is being served by them. And we want our DA to be successful. We want our council member who is in charge of the district with the most homelessness, with the most people living in encampments, to have a successful housing policy and plan. We don't want them to have to take time from work to deal with these personal attacks, with attacks against their safety and their own well-being.
Allyssa, Doug, if I may, so as a Black woman, and, we have the Malcolm X quote that the most disrespected, again, human in the country and this planet is the Black woman. How does this impact you? So I want to get your personal, so you are, it's clear, a supporter of DA Price, a supporter of Council Member Fife, and also are acknowledging the need for accountability to hold them accountable to their platforms. But let's just talk about being a Black woman in leadership. So how does this impact you?
I mean, again, it's a bit disheartening. It's, I want to always reach out and offer my support and my voice as a fellow Black woman who is in leadership in this city, who's from Oakland, who recently ran for mayor to be the first Black woman mayor of our city. I know that we have acute racial issues that are affecting Black people. They're documented and confirmed by this city, that we know who is most affected by racism, by historic racism and present racism. And we still don't have real solutions to that. And so when I see Black women that are representing, that are leading unapologetically, they're inspiring to me. But again, I see the opposition that comes against them. I see the narratives that come against them. It makes me think I have to do even more work to be prepared to offset that other candidates, that other leaders don't have to deal with, don't ever have to think about, don't have to put money and time and emotional energy and space into. And that, again, is why we need to have more support for Black women, because we face higher barriers. We face more opposition and more issues, even in basics like fundraising and outreach when we are running for political office, right? We are intentionally left out of these spaces and conversations, and these women are still pioneers. We're still hearing first Black women to do X, Y, Z. Again, we've never had a Black woman lead this great city of Oakland. And most people are shocked when I tell them that, because we have so many Black people here, so much Black culture and Black history here. It's not reflected in our leadership. And so for me, it again inspires me and motivates me to continue on my journey. It pushes me to align with these women and to reach out to support them, to just hear them, to honor their stories, and that they're coming before me and helping lay out the path and taking a lot of heat and helping me understand what I'm going to have to deal with, understanding the different solutions that they're proposing to us. And they're fighting for themselves, and they're also asking us to stand with them. So they're making clear calls to action, and I want to amplify those as well and make sure that we're all able to support Black women in leadership, whether it's in our churches, in our homes, as well as in our elected offices.
Allyssa, Doug, I'm just going to go off script here for a second, because I think it's really important what you're saying. And in my Therapeutic Thursday reflections, I talked about stress and burnout. And often, as you mentioned, people need to get used to Black women in leadership, that there is a sense of coping with stressors that counterparts of other racial or gender groups don't necessarily, in the intersection of identities, don't have to deal with. And so I want to bring up the strong Black woman stereotype. I'm so glad we're talking about the disgusting, targeted comments that these women are experiencing, because often Black women have not only been asked to lead and not be given the proper title, but also to suffer in silence. And so I just want to commend you for bringing attention to this, and also Councilmember Fife, and we also support DA Price. But Black women are no longer suffering in silence. We're saying we hurt, we have feelings just like everyone else. We want to be treated with respect just like everyone else. And this is and the effort to be of service is also, unfortunately, sometimes synonymous or includes enduring pain from the very community that they're also trying to serve.
Whew. You said a word, hit a nerve. Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's a labor of love to serve, to put yourself out as a public figure, that, you know, there are higher standards where more people are able to criticize you, to critique you, to look into your life and investigate things that you've done or are doing, because you are a public official, because you're paid by public salary. But still, that burden, that attention seems to fall more acutely and more negatively on Black women. Again, we're often not trusted, especially me as a young Black woman who is running for office, was told even by elders in this community, and let's be real, even our own Black elders told me I was not ready to lead, that I didn't know what I was doing, that I should wait for permission. I don't ever wait for permission or ask for permission to lead. I was trained as a leader by this city, by my elders in this community, and I'm doing what I was trained to do, what I am meant to do. And I want to have intergenerational conversations around that, because all are needed. We need our young people to be activated and to lead. We're trying to get more younger folks to vote with our Oakland Youth Vote, right? So we want to go more younger. We want to expand people who are participating in determining the future of our city and its leadership. But there's still so much internal strife, but also, again, the external pressures. And again, Black women are so severely underrepresented that we're constantly questioned of why we're here, of why we're competent, of what we're going to do. I've seen it happen to Pamela Price, to Carol Fife, who are my elders, who have much more years of experience, who argued at the Supreme Court of the United States, and we're still told that they're not competent enough. Right. So I told folks, hey, you think I'm young running for mayor now, even if I ran in 30, 40 years, people would tell me that I was not ready, that I didn't know what I was doing. And part of that resilience of Black women is having to persevere and push through so much of the negativity and doubt, even when it's coming from our own community, people who look like us, who've raised us and trained us to do exactly this. Again, once we're in position, we're ready to go. We're ready to lead, and other folks can try to stop us. But I'm thankful that Black people are speaking up, are speaking out, that Carol Fife went public with the messages and attacks, because it's only going to make us stronger. It's only going to help us unite and to support one another more.
Doug, I promise I'm going to turn this over to you, but I have Kobe behind me and I'm just shooting just like him, like a shooting guard. I'm so glad you brought up the age group, but this is where, Doug, I know you hold Black men accountable, and I so appreciate that. And I want to appeal to the brothers as well. There's so much sisterhood in the Black community, and it's so wonderful. And often it's sister to sister support, affirmations, encouragement. Brothers, we could use your support too. And we're not saying that all of you aren't supporting. We know many of you are active and supporting and backbones, but this is where we really need that unity. Elders, we need you to understand we honor you and your glory days and your wisdom to pass down. But just sharing and passing that baton is so important, because it gets heavy. It gets heavy. And so we just thank you, Allyssa. Doug has some questions, but I just had to just affirm what you were saying, and just this need to come together, which, Doug, I know you've been echoing for weeks now, especially post-election.
Absolutely. We need it all, from men, from non-binary folks, from non-Black people. I'm in a legal profession where Black folks are severely underrepresented, but Black women even more so, right? It's a male-dominated profession overall. Yes. A lot of my legal mentors were Black male attorneys. So again, we still need your support, your wisdom. We need you to speak up and to support us all as a community who are underrepresented in multiple spaces.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself, ladies. Allyssa, what is happening with the Dem statewide election that is causing concerns? And audience, let me share this briefly before Allyssa address that question. I've been Pamela Price's alternate delegate since 2017, and I'm still an alternate delegate for the for the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee. To that end, it came numerous times where I had to stand up amongst about 60 delegates and people in the monthly meeting and tell them, stop cutting her off, let her speak. Brothers, when you see that happen, man up, buck up. That's our sisters, our mothers, our wives, our daughters. Demand the same respect that you would want for yourself for our sisters. On that note, please, once again, the question: what is happening with the ADEM statewide election that is causing concern? Thank you, Allyssa.
Thank you. I would say everything is a concern with this election, and it seems to be cyclical. I am currently an ADEM delegate elected for Assembly District 18. 2 years ago, that included Oakland, Alameda, and San Leandro. Now with redistricting, the district is Oakland, Alameda, and Emeryville. And these elections happen every 2 years. They're internal to the Democratic Party and run by the Democratic Party staff. But any Democratic voter in the state of California is able to participate. Those are thousands of people. We are the largest party. We are the majority of the state. We have a super majority in our legislature, and yet only a few hundred people vote in each district. This is usually decided by party insiders who are very active in local Democratic clubs, who already have some position within the party, who've been elected officials before. And the average voter doesn't even know about it. And the average person doesn't know that they can be a candidate. Every single one of the 80 districts elects 14 delegates to represent them to the party. And the delegates are 1/3 of all delegates that make up the central committee, who get to decide the party officers, the party's platform, and who the Democratic Party endorses. And that'll be critical for some upcoming elections like the US Senate seat, which I'm happy to talk more about. But I'm running on an independent slate, as I did 2 years ago. I'm number 12 on the slate. We're the People slate. You can follow us at 8018forthepeople.com and 8018forthepeople on Instagram. But the elections close this weekend. So again, there's been so many issues with voter engagement, voter accessibility, and voter outreach. There's only the option to register for this election online. There have been so many issues with people getting through the online system, needing support from the actual staff of the Democratic Party, staff being out of office, staff not having answers or responses, people having all types of glitches when they do register, getting PIN numbers for different assembly districts. Our slate was out at our voting center to help people, to make sure they knew how to register, that they knew what their PIN number was and how to take it in to vote on their ballot, that they understood that they had up to 14 candidates they could vote for, not just one. This is a very different election from your general elections, from your council or your mayor seats, even more complicated than ranked choice voting that we've talked about before. And so having real education is necessary. We've not seen any real translated materials, and so our slate has committed to providing information in Chinese and in Spanish to our voters. And it's been an uphill battle because even the Democratic Party has made changes without telling us as candidates, has made changes to the information online, to the voting locations. So information we're telling people then becomes outdated. And it's such a short timeline. If people are planning to do something and things are changing in 1 week, it's been, again, a real battle to message correctly, to help educate and activate people. This is also a mail election, and some people who registered for mail ballots back in December are not receiving them. And if they don't receive a ballot, they have to go vote in the last vote in-person vote centers this weekend. And again, this already happened for our district. It happened on January 7th, the in-person voting for Assembly District 18. So now if you have to vote in person, you have to travel. You have to travel to locations this weekend, which include Hayward, Albany, Walnut Creek, and Fremont. And we are having a people's party this Friday in Oakland, 9 to midnight at Mellow Mellow Kava Lounge, which is kava, which is non-alcoholic, very family friendly, which is by the lake on Grand Ave. You can drop your ballots to us. You can get a stamp because these ballots that are required to be mailed back did not come with a stamp. We want to make sure that we remove as many barriers as possible to people voting, casting their ballot, being able to register and vote in person for this last weekend. Again, this election is usually decided by a few hundred folks that are often insiders to the party. This is a democratic election. These seats are supposed to be elected by the people, whereas other seats are from other elections, are from elected officials who have appointed seats. These are the only seats that everyday voters get to determine. It is important that people understand that power and they know how to wield it, that they have the proper information to exercise their right to vote. The Progressive Caucus of the Democratic Party has recently released a long message to the Democratic Party leadership about its failure to conduct fair elections, transparent elections, and there has been a new organization, a website created that endorsed a number of delegates throughout the state that appears to have come from Chair Rusty Hicks's account. This again is undemocratic behavior, is not transparent behavior. If our chair wants to support specific delegates who will determine if he gets to remain chair or not, he should be public and transparent about that. If he is behind this organization, I asked him to be public about it. If he's not, then I joined the Progressive Caucus, who has asked the Democratic Party to investigate how an outside organization has gotten access to his accounts, is able to send information to his account recipients, and is using the Democratic Party's copyrighted logos and information. So there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered, and they're only going to get answered with folks who are willing to hold our electeds accountable. That's again why I'm running on an independent slate, why I'm running with independent leaders who are everyday Oaklanders, who lead on our city commissions, who do our city culture and arts, who have worked on different campaigns, including mine, as well as DA Pamela Price's, to elect real progressives, and who are committed to protecting Black women and defending our democratically elected results for local elections. Both have been at stake in recent news, and we need delegates that will stand up and also make sure that the party is going to support our local electeds and the different reform platforms that they're pushing here.
I'd like to say, how many people of color, since you are really, because one of the things that I've been doing, Kalima Pryfor, Barack Obama Shaw, these are men who I brought in and got them engaged. Can you let our audience know, with your high visibility in the ADEMs, what's the African American Black the makeup of the group when you go to these different meetings? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So statewide, again, I said every single assembly district has these elections, has 14 delegates. We're only 1/3 of the total delegates, which are around 3,000 plus around the state. Out of all of those delegates to the Democratic Party, Black delegates are less than 1%. One. Less than 1%. I started the Elect Black ADEMS campaign when I first ran in 2021 to educate the public on this statistic. We partnered with the Black Caucus of the Democratic Party, who helped to elevate the different Black candidates that were running and our stories of why. Many of us are marginalized in our local parties and central committees. Again, there's not a lot of us throughout the state, certainly not in each district. And so I'm committed to having a majority Black slate with the People's Slate, and to partnering with progressive slates throughout the North Cal region. This is also a commitment I have for our central committee leaders and for those that will be elected to the Democratic Party. We've never had a Black person or a Black woman be chair of the Democratic Party. All right, so again, our leadership in this party does not reflect our democracy, doesn't reflect our Democratic voters. Black people nationally are most likely to cast their ballot for Democratic candidates. And they say Black women are the backbone of this party because we're the most consistent and loyal voters. Yet we're not in any positions of power to make any decisions. And so I am committed, and I'm the only Black woman who is currently elected as an ADEM delegate for this assembly district. I'm committed, again, to keeping my seats, and that's why I'm running for re-election. That's why I'm running with an independent People's Slate that is majority Black and includes folks like Kalima Pryfor, who was just elected to Emeryville City Council. That it's important that our voices are at the table, are able to make these decisions, and that we are in the leadership of the party that already has so many Black community members as its voters.
Do you have any concerns regarding the Senate seat opening up possibly in California with Dianne Feinstein? Because, I'm a huge Barbara Lee fan. And I was reading some tea leaves. One stated that her competitors are raising millions and millions, and she has her resources aren't as vast as theirs. What concerns do you have about that? Thank you.
Thank you. As I mentioned, these ADEM delegates get to help influence and vote on who the Democratic Party endorses. One of those key seats that we'll be deciding endorsement in will be the U.S. Senate seat, as everyone is assuming it will open in 2024. And this is Dianne Feinstein's seat. She's not announced any retirement, but she is getting up there in age. And I think it is time to pass the torch democratically to another leader. We're already seeing other candidates who are coming out and announcing that they will run for the seat. And that includes strong and confirmed rumors from Congresswoman Barbara Lee, whose district represents Oakland, where I'm at. There are 0 Black women in the U.S. Senate. Again, I want to be very clear. We are not in positions of power and governance to make decisions. The U.S. Senate only has 100 seats. The House of Representatives has over 400. And so the 100 Senate seats are extremely coveted, and we have 0 Black women in them. This was the impetus for the Keep the Seat campaign run by many Black women organizations after Kamala Harris vacated the seat and became vice president, that we realized there were going to be no Black women represented, no Black women's voice, no Black women to champion bills that may be specific to us in our community, no Black women as models of this leadership to help build a pipeline for others. And so I am strongly committed to seeing a Black woman in this seat, and am only hearing that Barbara Lee is the one considering, though I think many more candidates will come forward. I do have a lot of concerns because this is, something that doesn't happen very often, is one of few Senate seats that California has. And so it's a very historic opportunity for voters and for us to have a real champion who will make the decisions and be the leadership that we need in the Senate. I'm not about representation just because. I'm very clear about that. I'm not for supporting women just because they're women. If you have an agenda to move forward justice for our populations and for the communities in need, that is what I consider to be qualified. But we still want the representation as bonuses and as people who won't need to do as much work to understand the issues in those arenas. But again, with ADEM elections, with the Democratic Party running unfair internal elections, it's concerning of whether a Black woman could earn the support of her own political party, whether we'll get funded by our own political party, whether people will work for us, whether they'll endorse us, because I've seen my own party ignore me, flip on me when I ran for my seat for Oakland mayor. I've seen it happen to many other women, right? That the party, again, loves to champion Black women as its voter base, but when we are running for office, we're often overlooked, we're often not trusted or told we're not ready, or we don't know what we are doing. And we often face hurdles in terms of fundraising, endorsers, and support that other people and even white women do not have to deal with. So I am concerned about what we'll learn about the public's perception of Black women in leadership on this campaign trail of Barbara Lee and other women who may join facing attacks similar to Carol Fife and other leaders because of their progressive values and the platforms that they run on, and for that discouraging other people in the process. I hope that there can be elections, endorsements, and decisions made with integrity and with fairness. And part of why I'm running for ADEM delegate is going to connect to those really critical elections in California that are coming up in the next 2 years.
Well, that was a mouthful.
Yes. I hope you answered your question too.
Yes, yes. We have a segment coming on, and I would love if your time permits, but we have a family in Colorado that's being beat down, harassed, even by the local deputy sheriff out there. I was hoping that you could come on because they're going to be watching tonight, and Dr. Ashley's going to talk more about it. But you have educated our audience over the last almost year now with your expertise in the political process, the democratic process. So I hope that you can stay on. Is that possible?
Depends on, I can stay for maybe 20 more minutes.
Okay. Dr. Ashley, because I would love to hear your perspective as a lawyer, as a civil rights lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
and possibly give these people a perspective of what's going on, of what they can do to defend themselves. They bought 1,000 acres in Colorado and have been bullied, literally bullied. So, Dr. Ashley, can we move things up just a little bit so that
Absolutely. So I'll just acknowledge our quickly our producer and advertisement, and we'll go right into the GoFundMe and switch it around. Thank you, Allyssa, for your flexibility. Thank you, Mr. Donnie Glover of BlackUSA.news, and be sure to tune in to Chap and Friends on Mondays, Party Marty Let's Talk on Tuesdays. There's Black USA Crypto News with Kamal Hubbard on Fridays, as well as the Blackout Live from New York with Tashmir. And on Sundays, there's 60 Minutes in Black USA with Michael Haney. To join our BBRT advertising family or to be a possible guest on the show, reach us via our email, bbrt2021@hotmail.com. And in that email, please include the details about your company, its website, so that you can be considered. And now we'll go ahead, Doug, and cue me up so I can read this GoFundMe.
yes, it's all you. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. And so here we go.
Oh, wait a minute. It's my turn.
Okay.
Oh, next up, audience, Dr. Ashley will read to you the unbelievable story, which was initially found on Instagram, and the Black Business Roundtable team has contacted the rancher. We have noted the GoFund account of the Black-owned ranch of Mr. and Mrs. Courtney Mallery. Mrs. Mallery is a veteran too, served in the military. Freedom Acres Ranch is located on 1,000 acres in El Paso County, Colorado. Folks, if ever you were as angered as I was, and for good reason, this is it. This is it. But we need Dr. Ashley to read a part of the story here today. We have provided links for the entire two-part series of the show description. Dr. Ashley, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. And so what I'll be reading is the GoFundMe page. Its title is Deputy Leading Assault to Steal Black Farmland. Black Colorado farmer terrorized. The GoFundMe was created by Geneva B on behalf of Nicole and Courtney Mallery. And so it starts off by saying, we are seeking that you can help our family members out at a time when they are in the fight for their lives, the fight for freedom and the fight for their land, the fight to maintain a family legacy now and generations to come. They are fighting to farm while Black in America. A Black couple rebuilt their lives after losing everything in a hurricane. They never thought they'd be thrown into a fight for their ranch and possibly their lives in a predominantly white and hostile Colorado county. Every night on Freedom Acres Ranch is a gamble of life and death for Black cattleman Courtney Mallery and his wife, Nicole. As of late, he most likely will find tools destroyed, a prized calf stolen, or one of his hogs with their entrails spewing from slit bellies. The ranch hand has been murdered, beheaded, and butchered goat carcasses are a common sight. Recently, his newly born calf vanished. Not long ago, the mother of his Pyrenees puppies was poisoned along with several pigs. Often he picks up animal remains on the farm and has had to put out fires, like when the chicken coop was set ablaze. To make the situation more tenuous, the Mallory's fence has been damaged over 10 times. Frequently, they must replace surveillance equipment after they see strangers pointing a device toward their cameras, which ends up jamming them and taking out the signal. Plus, their electricity lines have been cut, and neighbors have stolen well water by running an illegal line from their source. One day, Courtney was chased by a white man when repairing a portion of his fence. The aggressor, who was in a car, gunned for Courtney, who made it to his vehicle in just enough time to dash away in a hellish pursuit. And once he made it to the end of his property, the man steered the other way. On another evening, Nicole was followed by a white woman who almost ran her car off the road, then put on high beams and pulled out what looked like a gun. And the confrontation was exceptionally unnerving because Nicole was returning from a church function with her visiting nieces and nephews. Once or twice a week, strange white people drive slowly by the ranch, stop and take pictures or video, and sometimes brandish guns at them. The couple is frequently followed, especially while they're in town. As a result, they rarely travel and are mindful at what time. Clearly, they are unwanted. And a quote from Courtney says, "Even the post office workers ask us why we're here." A regular phrase told to Courtney is that he quote, has a lot of balls to purchase land in the mostly white community. Courtney also details that what puts him on edge is that everyone knows them and how they look, but we don't know them. And this is just some of the reports of terror that the Houston transplant says his family has experienced since the purchase of a 1,000-acre ranch in El Paso County, Colorado in August 2020. And Courtney Mallery alleges he and his wife have been the target again of community members who want them off the land. And he says, again, it's like I'm being tormented for doing God's work. Mallery, who is exhausted because his family has not slept for months, from keeping night watches, and again, added to the everyday toil of keeping an active ranch, they are constantly repairing the damage done on and to the ranch. So I'll stop there to, again, given this respect of your time, Allyssa, I'm wanting you to weigh in. Now that was more than a mouthful.
Wow.
Allyssa, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like the government, local government, county or state, there should be somebody who can help these people, because this is the 21st century and this stuff is still going on. This sounds like something you would hear back in the 18 and 1900s. What advice can you give these people? And we're going to blast this out to make sure that we get as much exposure on this story as needed so that they can have a safe, harmonious life in Colorado. This is Colorado. You ought to be shaming yourself. Shame, shame, shame. Thank you, Allyssa.
Wow, that was definitely a lot to take in. Seems like so much for any family to have to deal with, just setting up a business or growing their own produce. And my advice may not be the nicest because I have to keep it real, right? Racism is alive and well in this country, anti-Black racism to be specific. You use the term terrorism, and it sounds like some of that terrorism is from the neighbors itself as civil terror, but it also sounds like it may be state terror, that some law enforcement and local leadership is involved in this or is aware and has received reports and is doing nothing to intervene or to provide any services to this family. So the collusion of the very leaders that are supposed to hold people accountable or step in to protect a family like this, if they are also complicit in racism or white supremacy, it's hard. These are the limits of the law when law enforcement itself is engaging in unlawful behavior. Usually you have to go up a whole level of state oversight, federal oversight, if there's no one at the local level willing to do their jobs, willing to enforce the law and people's civil rights protections against this type of behavior, against property damage, against theft, against harassment and racial terrorism. I can say that this sounds similar to so many other housing discrimination cases I've represented, litigated in California.
Wow.
That cases that even involve actually non-Black folks, but people who were Asian, who were doing agriculture business up in Northern California, being targeted by sheriff's deputies, having their grow businesses and their farms destroyed by law enforcement. Right? Again, I've written about police terrorism across the United States and very clear that the police misconduct and police being called to hold them accountable are two sides of the same coin, and that Black people and folks of color are often left without real justice or adequate justice in our system. So that's why I want to be clear that I don't have the best answer, that I think this shows the inadequacies of the law, of law enforcement, when those systems itself may be complicit in someone's oppression or terrorism. I would recommend, again, they go to the next levels of state or federal if the local level is failing or if they are a part of this behavior, and to do what they need to do immediately for their own well-being, for their own sanity, right? Those are some things you can't get back, that money cannot compensate you for, that a court case will not help you with, that I see too often of people becoming paranoid and living constantly in terror and fear. And in some ways, that is the point. And I just want to send them a message to be strong, to keep spreading the message publicly and calling on support from across this country, to keep calling on. I saw some civil rights organizations and other groups mentioned to use their expertise, because sadly, this is not the first time I've heard this. This is not happening just in their state. This is happening across the country to people who look like them, to people who are moving, and especially to property owners, right? Land is the basis of all freedom. And there's going to be opposition, and sometimes hostile, violent, racist opposition, depending on the neighborhood you're moving into. I would also bet there's probably racially restrictive covenants in some of these properties in this neighborhood that tells us exactly the history of this area. And again, why they may be so hostile to this Black family moving in, but not just moving in with acreage, moving in with business, moving in with livestock, moving in and making a footprint and doing for themselves and maybe providing food or resources to the community itself. So again, I'm not the most positive response, but it is happening, and I would encourage them to keep pushing, to keep publicizing and asking for help and for accountability, investigation, prosecution if necessary. And if it won't happen at the local, there's larger levels that they can reach to.
Lisa, can I just, Doug, before you weigh in, because I definitely want to hear your reflection. So a part that I omitted from reading, and audience, I encourage you to go find the GoFundMe. They mentioned doxing. So this idea that in a, per the GoFundMe and a social media group for that community, all of the identification of the Mallorys was leaked, as well as a picture of Courtney Mallery with some comments about defending America. But I'm curious about doxing, releasing sensitive information with negative intent. How might that, a little bit of that legal, where does social media or this idea of privacy come in?
I mean, it's very nuanced. It can also differ by state and what additional protections the state may offer. Social media makes a lot of things harder in terms of tracing who it might have been. Again, if this was public profiles or public photos, it's harder to claim that there was any violation of privacy if you posted a picture anywhere. If I have a picture of me at my college, university, on their website, right, that can become, anyone can copy and use that somewhere else. So it's hard to know exactly without knowing the specifics of who and where they got the information, where they might be posting it. Is it in their private groups or was it on really public sites? And the content, right? We have First Amendment and free speech. It does not protect hate speech, violent speech, calls to violent actions. So there's always just looking at the specific facts of, how far away is the person? Could they actually inflict harm? Were they calling for something immediate to be done? What actually did happen as a result of these posts? Again, I stand with them and knowing that it's still terrorizing to post your information, to post it in some of these hate sites or pages, to again be open to any type of comments or attacks from people you've never met. You don't know where they are.
Right.
And I think a part of it is them doing immediately what they need to do to protect themselves, making their pages private, being very careful about what they're posting and their locations and their information so that people can't claim, oh, this is all public already and we're just reposting it. So again, I would take a look at, some of the immediate things they can do about protecting themselves, their well-being, their personal safety. I don't really like a lot of surveillance, but it sounds like a lot of acreage. You might want to have cameras to at least document what is happening. I always tell people in the law, it doesn't matter what has happened. It's what you can prove.
Right.
It's what you can prove to someone who's never met you, who's never physically been to your home or that city, what you can prove to someone who's looking from the outside in that has happened. And that's not always a fair standard, but that's the legal system that we have right now. But I would take some immediate non-legal steps to just protect their own privacy, their information, their mental health, and their well-being. Because I know it can be stressful, and even going to courts and pursuing restraining orders or other types of resources can still be stressful. Right? Still burden falls on folks that are victimized. Again, our legal system is not perfect for many of these reasons.
Thank you, Doug. And
I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat in awe. That's why it's so important, audience, that you vote. You get out there and you'll go to a concert, you'll go take a cruise. It only takes a few minutes to vote. And this is what happens when certain segments of the population refuses to want to be progressive, move forward, think worldly. I've been through Colorado when I used to drive trucks. And one of the things when I used to go through Montana, Idaho, it was bad back then. But to hear this now, this is horrific. Allyssa, we want to thank you for chiming in. And I know you said 20 minutes, so I got my hand on my watch going, okay, she said 20 minutes. I don't want to mess up Victory's corner.
Ooh, I got a few more meetings, but yeah, I'm happy to just weigh in again, sending love to the family, and just hope they, take care of their immediate needs while pursuing whatever recourse accountability measures are available. But thank you all for having me. Thank you, Love, for BRT. And I'll be back in 2 weeks to share some more thoughts and reflections with you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We look forward to your return.
Thanks. Thank you. Dr. Ashley, this is something horrific. We girl, I'm trying, I get angry, so I'm Why don't you give some perspective on the mental side of this, what this family must be going through and how they can keep mental, because you can win anything if you stay strong mentally. And they're watching today. So what advice can you give them that will keep their psyche together? Because, they just moved from one location to this location, bought 1,000 acres. And on top of that, this woman, because I saw one of the comments said he fought for his country. No, the woman was in the military. She fought for her country. So give our audience, and listening to Allyssa Victory, this is something that is not uncommon, happening all across the nation. How Black people or any person could keep their psyche and deal with this
Mhm.
in a civilized way. Thank you.
Yes, well, I think Allyssa really laid it out in talking about how land has often been is the cornerstone of freedom. And so I first want to acknowledge the Mallorys for achieving their dream of being able to purchase 1,000 acres, and that they had a vision. So it starts off with their dream, and we all can relate to that. And then this idea that their very dream um, is being threatened, in addition to what it sounds like their well-being. And so there's a term that we use in psychology, and also um, is used in the legal field, but gang stalking. So it's basically when someone believes that they're being followed or stalked and harassed by a large number of people. And then this feeling of being stalked, of course, is unnerving. There's a sense of security that's lost and safety. And as Allyssa was mentioning, that typically is the intent of the behavior. And so, this idea of trying to hold on to your dream while also being able to enjoy it. So, I would say, first and foremost, by telling their story, you're soliciting support. So, through the organizations, through the community organizations, through, again, um, whether it's at the local level, the federal level, wherever you find safety, getting that support. Unfortunately, often victims of stalking initially are not believed. So that's one of the dangers of it, is because of being invalidated or not being believed. And the intent again for stalking is to isolate an individual or a group. And so the Mallorys are fighting by making their story known, soliciting support, knowing their rights, and fighting for their well-being. In addition to that, it is really, really important. And I've worked with survivors of stalking. It's really important to access, again, therapy and just a team of individuals in general. So you have the legal aspect, where you can be trust, where you feel safe, because needing the validation, needing the safe space to share your thoughts and feelings vulnerably, to get again, to learn strategies in order to protect yourself. And you may not be able to control other people, but there is a sphere of control that you do have. And that's often your emotional reactions to situations like this. But you need a place to be heard, and for someone to get it, and just to understand how terrorizing it must feel. And again, but how you can learn to be resilient, and you already are. But it's a journey, Doug. And again, I've supported people before who have been on the other side of stalking, and it really is an isolating experience. But when you have support, people that can help you, keep you going, places to let some air out of the balloon to vent those frustrations. Taking care of your mental health is so important. Taking care of your physical health is so important. And again, being willing to connect with trusted individuals that can help you make decisions about your safety. We have to take threats at any level seriously.
And Mallory's family, I know you all are listening and watching the show today. We would love to have you come on and articulate many of the things that are happening. We, my producer, who is an amazing young lady, has already reached out to quite a few people, and I'm going to just read them off because this is shameful, America. Shameful. You have a Black family that's going through domestic terrorism
Mhm.
in Colorado. And from my understanding, the deputy is one of the deputies, or several of the law enforcement is a part of that. So, Dr. Ashley, you, because I'm pretty emotional about this, and I'm looking to fly to Colorado. So I might have to drive so I can bring some help. But can you read off some of the information below, and then we'll go back and read it again, because nobody should go through this.
Mhm.
Nobody. Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
No, absolutely. So first, again, there's the GoFundMe story, but there's the Instagram link. So the handle is at Black Farmland Owners Matter, and also hashtag Black Farmland Owners Matter. In addition, there's Governor Jared Poles. His phone number is 303 866 2471. Again, that's 303 866 2471. His Instagram handle is at GOVOFCO. There's also the NAACP, the national office, area code 410 580 5777. Again, our producer has been in contact with one branch in California, and the Instagram handle is at NAACP. There's also, again, the ACLU national number 212 549 2500. Again, 212 549 2500. Their Instagram handle is at ACLU_nationwide. There's also a local number, 303 777 5482. Again, 303 777 5482. There's also, we're going to go back to, there's a local NAACP number, 719 301 0726. Again, 719 301 0726. There's also Representative, I don't want to butcher their name, but Negusi, area code 970 372 3971. Again, 970 372 3971. There's Senator Cory Booker, 973 639 8700. Again, 973 639 8700. His Instagram handle is at Cory Booker. Senator Warnock, 770 694 7828. Again, 770 694 7828. And the Instagram handle at Raphael Warnock. And again, Senator Hickenlooper, area code 303 244 1628. Again, 303 244 1628. Instagram handle at Senator Hick. And so what we want to do, as always, we're going to post the links again in our show description, links to the articles. I read a snippet of it, and as well as the GoFundMe page. But the same way that we want to always encourage our audience to vote, this is another way, again, where we talk about holding elected officials accountable. So advocating for the underrepresented, please let your voice be heard.
Dr. Ashley, once again, America and those who are watching the show today, please contact these representatives, the NAACP, the ACLU, national and local. We've given out the numbers. Mm-hmm. Share this podcast with friends and family across this country. We need to nip things in the bud like this, because this could have happened to me. This could happen to Dr. Ashley, and this could also happen to you. We must fight for our right to be free, own our own land, cultivate it like other people, like other Americans. We're all Americans. please, let's help these folks out so that they can have the life, the peace in their life that they deserve. And specifically, this woman has fought for her country. This woman has fought for her country, and now she's fighting in the state that she lives in for her land. So let's pull our powers together and let's get on this phone and let's make some calls, send email. Let's get this, as brother say, let's get this cracking.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ashley, what are your thoughts? And let's talk. I mean, we're looking at what happened with the Mallery family.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of psychopath? And I'm asking you to dig deep into your war chest. What type of psychopath would deranged person on your best analysis would do these dastardly things? Because it doesn't sound like there being any kind of a reap havoc on their community. And from my understanding, during the pandemic, they fed many of the people who are harassing them now. So can you give the Mallery some kind of insight on the psychological part, if you can, of the people who are doing this, and how one might be able to articulate to these types of people who are perpetrating this terror? And that's what it is, domestic terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
Sure. So I've never met any of these individuals, but what I will say, Doug, is it's not far-fetched in human nature to be entitled. And so just because, unfortunately, you receive from someone doesn't mean that you respect them. I work as a therapist. I see individuals and I see couples, and I've done this for years. And you know, one of the things that I realize is that sometimes you can like, respect, and care for someone. Sometimes you just like and respect their hand, meaning what they can do for you. And unfortunately, entitlement is a disease that is pervasive throughout this country, the belief that one has a right to decide what someone does or does not deserve. And from a distance, again, of not having any personal interaction, but just based off of what I read, and if the account is there has been a decision that the Mallerys, how dare they have the audacity to dream big and carry out their dream? To purchase this land, to cultivate it, to be able to do this wherever they decided to do this without permission. Because again, entitlement indicates that someone believes that they have the right to dictate the behavior of other people. And we understand, Doug, that we're only a couple decades removed, but not even really. We still have Driving While Black in Texas with Michael Thrash. So we still have in this country the idea of needing permission or freedom papers as to why Blacks are deciding what to do and exercising their autonomy. And so I think what the Mallerys unfortunately are encountering is a very, as Allyssa Victory said, a very alive and well racist mindset of how dare you not hear and you can't. And so because they couldn't necessarily block the purchase, the next thing is to block someone's enjoyment of the purchase to then hope that they induce them to flee.
Malcolm X or Martin Luther King? Audience, let's be clear here. Malcolm X said it very clear. Through any means necessary. Martin Luther King wanted to sing and praise, and hopefully things would change. We have a situation here in Colorado that I humbly ask that anyone and everyone who can hear this podcast today, reach out, make phone calls, get involved, because that's what part of the Black business is all about. Reaching out and helping all people enjoy the freedoms of America. Thank you, Dr. Ashley. Looks like we might be closing out early today because I have to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
This is yes. I'm not. I don't have my stress. I should have got it today, but I'm baffled and stunned and really want our audience to get involved and help our fellow Americans enjoy what's the and reap what they're trying to sow in Colorado on their 1,000 acres. And let's get involved and make this happen. As we close it out early, Dr. Ashley, you want to oh my God, I couldn't even imagine going through that.
Well, Doug, we have on a smaller scale. And what brings to mind is my grandfather and my grandmother, Dorethel and George Coleman, who were the third Black family to live on Kalmar in the Oakland, Piedmont area. And my grandfather intelligently, as a survival skill in the 1950s, would transition from driving home, would put on a chauffeur's cap to avoid being stopped by Oakland police on his way home. Because how dare a Black man in a new Cadillac be living off a Kalmar in the Oakland, Piedmont area? And so even though it wasn't 1,000 acres, it was still that entitlement and the limited mindset of what a Black man and woman should or could have. And so this is what comes to mind. So I join you in my outrage for what's happening in Colorado. Unfortunately, as Allyssa said earlier, it's always been on the victim, and I like to say the survivor, to advocate to not be terrorized. But this has happened, unfortunately, for too long, when Black people decide what they want and realize their dreams. So that's who came to mind. And I still think about that. And when I heard that story about my grandfather, I thought, oh, wow, how wise. And I felt sad that he had to do that. And then decades later, it was me being stopped in Danville for the same reason. How dare I be on my way home in Danville?
Let me ask you something. Is that grandfather Metters or on your dad's side?
No, that's on my father's side.
Okay, because I know your grandfather.
Yeah, that's on my father's
and he
side.
had a Cadillac.
Yeah, he did, and that's what. So those are the survival skills that we shouldn't have to use. But he knew how to outsmart and get them accustomed to letting him pass by to make it home to his family. And so again, audience, it does hit home. And so I too, after this show, will be sighing. So we feel it. We feel the collective frustration, the outrage. All of the emotions are valid. And so my hope again, and my appeal to the Mallerys this evening, if you're tuning in, as Doug has said, we support you, and so does our audience. But we hope that you, in the moments where you can, where it's safe for you to do so, just let out some air. Sometimes it's encouraging music, sometimes it's prayer, sometimes it's a good, nice kickboxing to let it out. But however you can let it out so that you can fight another day.
Audience, read more on your own via an internet search. Black Farmers, El Paso County, Colorado, or links on our show description. Story Reference Credit, ARK, A-R-K, Republic. Both articles are written by, I want to make sure I pronounce her name correctly, written by Kaya Nyambi Shivers. Did I correct?
Yeah, I think Kaya Nyambi. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
January 16th, 2023, and January 17th, 2023, ARK Republic.
Mm-hmm.
And articles, I believe, are below on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ashley, can you close us out? Because this, you know what? I might have to have a strong cocktail because Malcolm X looking pretty good right now. Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
No problem. And in addition to the, again, Instagram handles that we provided earlier and ways to advocate for the Mallerys and to have your voices heard, we also have some other favorite pages that we want to remind you of, people in the community that we admire, friends of the show. So there's at Sabir Lockett, Instagram handle at Sabir Lockett, at millennial.democrats, at Victory FOR Oakland, at Kevin_Jenkins 510, and also at Knfolx, KINFOLX Coffee. So, and we'll be again weekly announcing others, but just some of our favorites. Donnie Glover, thank you again for this platform and your continued support for uplifting and maximizing marginalized voices. Audience, you know we have sister shows, so you know we keep it real here, and so do our colleagues. So there's Chapin Friends on Mondays, there's Titillating Tuesdays with Stacey Dennis, and there's Party Marty Let's Talk on Tuesdays, Black USA Crypto News with Kamal Hubbard on Fridays, the Blackout Live from New York with Tajmir, and on Sundays, 60 Minutes in Black USA with Michael Haney. Again, if you want to join our advertising family or to be possibly considered to be a guest on this show, please email us at bbrt2021@hotmail.com. In your email, include the company details so that, again, we can consider you for this show. As well as the shows I listed, there are also a number of shows that Mr. Donnie Glover himself hosts. So there's BlackUSA.News Morning Show, The Donnie Glover Show, People Over Politics, Political Cipher, Data Mall Sis, Community Connections, Resources, and Gardening. There's the Robert Report, Shared Space, Frontline News, Troy Rawlings Show, and the Beverly Smith Show. Please stay tuned as new programming is added regularly. As we mentioned, some of the things that we are keeping our eyes on, as always, hashtag Stand with Carlton of Raleigh, NC 2022, as well as hashtag Driving While Black, Michael Thrash, Taylor County, TX. And it seems like there's an update that there will be a new trial date on February 27th, 2023. So we'll be keeping you posted on that. Doug?
Audience, thank you. Listeners, thank you for joining us today. We return next Thursday, January 26th, with Emeryville, California Council member Kalima Pryforth and Amos White, author and environmental executive and climate evangelist. We look forward to seeing you every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Black USA.News Network on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you, audience, for tuning in. And remember, together we can listen, we can learn, and we can share, because I know you care. This is Doug Blacksher and Dr. Ashley Coleman of the Black Business Roundtable. God bless and good night. See you next week.